And we're live. It is Tuesday, November 26th. The year of our Lord 2024, 8 o'clock a.m. The sun is not shining. Although I suspect the birds are chirping, I cannot hear any of them right now. But it's okay. It's going to be a great day because you are watching Dog Shirt TV, a fucking revolution in morning television. And, you know, it's just a reality that the sun can't always be shining, the birds can't always be chirping, because, averages, right? Some days have to be below average in order for the average to exist. We don't live in Garrison Keillor's world. We live in Donald Trump's world. And so, we can't always have the sun is shining, the birds are chirping. It's going to be a great fucking day. Sometimes the sun is not shining. Sometimes the birds, it gets to the birds, they're feeling down and they're just a little bit worn out, so they're going to chirp less. And some days are going to be the ones that bring the average down, and that's okay. It's Tuesday. The world has not yet ended. We don't yet have the apocalypse may be upon us, but we're surviving it. Holly, you probably shouldn't advertise your email address like that. Let me change.
Make it go away.
I can do that.
I'm doing it.
I did it for you. We have a new co-host, folks. And she's here. Holly Berkley Fletcher. She's been a guest. You kind of sort of know her already. She writes the Zebra Without Stripes Substack. She does parodies. She is not afraid of making a fool of herself, which I love because, as somebody who leans into the making an ass of myself thing, I have so much respect for people who are willing to, get up in front of a group of people and talk bullshit, or write songs or sing on other people's songs or do parody videos in order to get in the attention of the Bulwark people because you're a super fan. And I just have a lot of respect for that. So Holly, why don't you say a few words introducing yourself?
Well, I was going to make my co-host debut in a few weeks when I leave my government job that I eventually will talk about, but I shouldn't right now. But then, I've been listening to the show and it's clear that you need some help.
Yeah,
not
because
you.
I suck.
No, you are fine, but you just, these other people don't seem to be reliable.
You mean the other co-hosts?
Yeah.
Well, they're not supposed to be reliable. They're supposed to show up whenever they show up.
Oh, well, anyway, I just thought you needed some reinforcements, especially yesterday with
foot,
with the injured foot.
Well, so the injured foot was not the fault of any of my co-hosts, I'm pretty sure.
But they weren't there for you.
No, that's true. That's true.
So
They
came today because I'm concerned about the. And I grew up in Africa. I grew up in Kenya, and so I have quite a bit of experience with strange things biting you in the night. And so I was really moved by yesterday's show, and my heart really went out to you. And so I thought, and also I'm just rapidly blowing through all the fucks,
Yeah, no, that's reasonable. So I want to ask you a serious question about the foot situation.
Okay, please.
Do we think that Rick Grenell snuck into my bedroom and bit my foot? Or are we assuming that it was, are we giving him the benefit of the doubt on this point?
Well, I mean, on the face of things, I would say it's unlikely. But just the way things are going right now, I mean,
He
all of
hasn't gotten a job yet.
he hasn't, and all of the vermin are sort of returning to town. And I apologize for using vermin. That's dehumanizing. But with certain groups of people, I feel kind of off the chain in terms of norms. Like the average person, I would never use that language. But when you like attempt a coup, I feel like that puts you in a different category. Anyway, I'm sorry to use that word, but all of the problematic characters are returning to town. So the likelihood that he's actually in DC is high, I feel like. Now, I don't know what your home security situation is.
Well, I would think it would be better than that he could, get in and get into my bedroom and get, my feet were actually under the covers when it happened. So, it would have had to have been. On the other hand, we know he spends time thinking about my feet because he's tweeted about it. And so,
Which is disturbing.
um, which is disturbing when you think about it. He may be, you know, I guess he won't be the next Secretary of State, but he may have he would be the only Senate confirmed official, if he were ever Senate confirmed, who has ever tweeted about my feet.
Wow, that is really a qualification. I mean, do you think that would come up in the hearing?
Well, I would do my best to make sure it came up, just drawing attention to the circumstances that led to it, which did arise out of this show, actually, back when it was in lieu of fun. Um,
Because you showed your
and
feet on the show?
no, my feet have never been on the show.
Oh,
Although I did so what happened was we had two young viewers of the show. Uh, and they got into an argument or a discussion with each other by text about whether it was ever okay to sell foot pics. Um,
oh,
and they asked me to uh, settle this argument. And I had honestly never heard of the whole buying foot pics fetish thing. So I had a brief text exchange with them about it and then made a joke about it on Twitter. And Rick Grenell decided that I was creeping on the young woman in question. He never suggested, by the way, that I was creeping on the young man in question, but he decided that I was creeping on the young woman of this discussion and started tweeting at me stuff about how I was into foot pics with young women, which so I responded the way any red-blooded American would, which was to take pictures of my feet and send them to Rick Grenell. And that is how the whole Rick Grenell foot pics thing was born. And then, of course, I encouraged others to do the same.
oh, of
Um,
course.
and so there was briefly, I would say, a small campaign among a few of us to take pictures of our feet and tweet them at Rick Grenell. But then, like all such great ideas, it got subsumed by the passage of time, and then I got thrown off of Twitter anyway. And but I will, if there comes a time when Rick Grenell comes before the Senate, I will. Oh, the other thing is when my wife was up for Senate confirmation, he went on a foot pics campaign against her. He tweeted about how her, you know, as though this would be a reason, if it were true, to reject a nominee, that her husband had uh, was into foot pics with young women, which, A, was not true, but B, if it were true, I would think my wife would be the victim of that, rather
True.
than like a reason for
A Hillary
us.
Clinton type of character.
Exactly. And so I've always kind of resented Rick Grenell because in addition to waging war against the intelligence community and the entire nation of Germany, I actually think he's kind of maliciously lied about me and made me seem like a creep, and I'm not really into that.
Oh, so now's the part where the dog has arrived and you get to see me shoot him with a water gun to get him to calm down, which sort of works, but he's kind of like, it worked at first. It was like startling and he hates water. But now he's sort of laughs at the water gun. But this is my entire dog training apparatus here.
I like the idea of, that we are packing heat on Dog Shirt TV.
You never know what
Armed.
can be solved with a water gun.
Most
Um,
problems can be
well,
solved with a water gun. So what is on your mind this morning?
Well, I actually I did come with an agenda, so you can pick things. Do you want to pick? Because
Yeah.
again, I don't know. I don't mean to criticize the co-hosts. They seem like very smart people, but I feel like they've been very serious and they've brought serious things. And so I have some
That's the way
sort
I
of
always think of Scott Shapiro, as very serious and
who did you end up
earnest.
voting for, by the way, and why? I didn't close the loop on that.
Yeah, so I'm not sure he ever announced it. He did announce that he was decided, but I'm not sure he ever publicly declared whom he had voted for.
Well, I think you need to nail him down, Like, if we're going to have like a fascist takeover, I feel like people need to come out
Need to
and
know which
say
side Scott Shapiro's on.
exactly, exactly,
Hmm. All
like
right. Well, we will I will text him now, and we can decide. And the next time he's on, we can certainly pin him down about that.
okay, so my list of things that we can discuss is first of all, did you see this article in New York Times about Trump's new Ava Braun? She had previously been known as the human printer, but she seems to have gone up in the chain of his affections, and she's apparently, anyway, she needs an intervention. She's clearly obsessed with him, which is
Wait,
disturbing.
who is this person?
Her name is Natalie Holmes, I want to say. I have the
Oh,
article.
this is the 33-year-old
Yes,
uh
very cute, very evangelical.
staff secretary person.
Natalie Harp.
Okay, so what position she's taking, the staff secretary position?
I don't know what position she's taking, but she's very devoted to him. She has written him a series of letters declaring her devotion to him, and not
She was
surprised.
inspired by Kim Jong-un.
Yeah.
Love
And not
letters.
surprisingly, given that she is obsessed with him and writes things to him such as "You are all that matters to me," and also given the fact that she is 33 and blonde and was an OAN anchor, and as if it can't get any better for her, she is a big proponent of the 2020 election thing, fraud. So she's deep in his heart, apparently. And I have to say that the quotes from these letters that she's written are truly disturbing. But actually not for someone who grew up in white evangelicalism, and she, of course, is a very devout evangelical Christian. Her letters I don't know, like it sounds familiar somehow to me in
So,
terms of,
like, what kind of things does she write other
okay,
than
here we
that
go.
he's the only
You are
thing that
all that
matters to her?
matters to me. I don't ever want to let you down. She quotes him for being, she thanks him for being her guardian and protector in this life. He apparently, she originally got his attention by going on Fox News and claiming that he had approved some drug or some research study that produced the drug that apparently she had cancer at some point. Um, and so that's part of her obsession with him. Oh, she told Trump that she wanted to get back to the synergy. She has synergy with him where we talk about everything and nothing. And which reminds me of one of
Which
my
reminds me
favorite.
of this show, by the way. We talk about everything and nothing, but we do it, I hope, without crazed, obsessive worshipfulness.
Oh, don't you know that's how I regard you, Ben? Have
Oh,
you not?
yeah, yeah.
Anyway, I'm just this close to starting to write you
Ugh.
worshipful letters. So, um, so oh, here's another quote. I want to bring you joy, to feel like we can get through a day without ever having to talk work. I mean, very,
How
and
does
she.
Melania feel about this woman?
I mean, how does Melania feel about any of these women? I mean, to me, like she's just one. There was the Hope Hicks thing, of course. There was the briefly
I saw
the
Hope Hicks cry once
really where in
in
the
court.
trial.
Yeah.
Oh, did her mascara run?
She controlled it pretty
I,
well.
she probably uses like top grade makeup. She needs to do a get ready with me video because I could
Yeah,
probably
well,
learn something from her. Although, frankly, I learned some things from you because my makeup game is very minimal.
well,
Uh,
my makeup game is very minimal too, as you can see from the
no
fact that the
contraire.
eyebrow is, in fact,
Well,
not
this is a
touched
casual
up today.
show, like some of your other appearances are like more. I hope this is a casual show because I'm literally here in my pajamas.
You
Um,
know, it is come as you are.
okay,
So
well, this is
I
early.
have a question. Do we know what role this woman is going to be playing?
Is gonna be playing. I mean, Ben, um, I think she's probably already playing some roles that I wouldn't speculate on this.
No, no, no. I mean
show.
official. I'm
I don't
not
know.
here for the
The
gossip.
official roles. I study African dictators, of which Trump is a poor imitation, but nonetheless, aspirational. I feel like, and they all have official people around them. That's kind of like pro forma. So again, I don't want to like besmirch her reputation, although I feel like she's doing a great job of that herself with these letters and the things that she's doing. But it's very suspicious. She's very cute, gotta say, very cute. But she seems to have like ratcheted up in the chain after I think the last woman that was like stuck to him like glue was that Laura Loomer. Is that her name? The Laura Loomer, like,
Yeah, but Laura Loomer wasn't like a staffer, right? I mean,
no,
she's
but she was his, special friend for a while.
and she had a kind of, I mean, Laura Loomer has a kind of independent um following.
Yeah,
She's an influencer. She's a
yeah.
whereas like this woman it's a little bit more like Hope Hicks. I think
Yeah, yeah. She's the
she's
new
a
Hope Hicks. And very pretty, although she's like blonde. So I guess he wanted to diversify because Hope Hicks, of course, was a brunette. So now he's moved on. This is blonde. So her official role has been printing out. Basically, they've called her in the news before. She's been called the human printer because she follows him around with a portable printer and battery pack to charge it. So she could hand him information in hard copy. So she prints everything
right.
out for him.
He doesn't like to read things online.
Yeah, so she prints out and she controls the news. She makes sure that, only happy news gets to him, only, the news that confirms his priors gets to him. So she's kind of the
That's good. I have a person like that too, actually. Follows me around and makes sure I only hear happy things. Um,
that's why you get married, right? I mean, that's
I mean, look, I, there are all these bad things out there, and I don't want, toxicity to affect my mood or anything. So it's a very useful thing to have a person who's responsible for filtering out the bad news and people not saying worshipful things about me. And so that's what I do.
I mean, that's why I got married, although my husband is not that good at it, frankly. He's a man of few words. He tends to be quite reserved, which doesn't, I could
It
use,
doesn't really lend itself well to constant validation.
yeah, um, he could be more effusive. Let's just say that. I don't want to criticize him on national television, but he could be more effusive.
No, no, don't worry. There are all of 9 people watching this right now. So, um, although it will, of course, become a smash sensation when we post it to
Of
YouTube.
course. Of course. Okay, so you asked about her official role. Here's the speculation. At the White House, Ms. Harp is likely to serve a role unlike any presidential advisor in modern history. I love that we're still doing this,
Right.
Like, well, this is just like, oh, so it's like, no, we've kind of blown past all this terminology. While the incoming staff secretary, Will Scharf, don't know who that is, will be tasked with managing the paper flow. So I guess she won't be printing things out anymore. In and out of the president's office, those who have worked closely with Mr. Trump know that as long as Ms. Harp is around, there will inevitably be an entirely separate stream of information to his desk. So it'll be like official, unofficial.
Right. So,
Um,
if you want to actually get something to him, you have to go through her.
yeah. Uh, this is a change. Again, I love that we're doing this. This is a change from Mr. Trump's first 4 years in office, which were totally normal, when staff members who controlled his social media feed usually alerted higher ups of potentially problematic posts, like all of them, maybe, like dismissals of significant advisors. When he fires someone by tweet,
Right.
someone alerted someone, and that made it very official and normal. And now he's just going to fire them. Nobody will alert anyone, and Ms. Harp will like print it out, I guess. So anyway, that's her, Natalie Harp. Honestly, one of the more striking aspects of the story is I want to know what printer she has, because I
Ye-
have yet to find a printer that reliably works after like the first 2 days.
Also, that can be carried around portably with a battery pack. That's kind of
Yeah,
cool, actually.
yeah. I feel like I need to know what is going on. And the paper. Where's she getting all the paper? Is she carrying all the paper? Because
I don't
that's
know.
a lot of paper.
That's actually kind of a talent to walk around with a working printer powered by a battery and enough paper to
And the ink, it's always running out of ink. Basically, all the printers I have experience with print out like 5 pages and then they need new ink.
or print out 5 pages for when you try to print out one, and there's a little bit of what you tried
Yeah,
to print out on the one page on each of the 5,
that's right.
because they kind of stick together a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe the point about Ms. Natalie Harp is that she's actually super talented, and she's a power player because she's figured out this printer thing
Yeah.
in a way that
Nobody else
nobody
has. Like, we have
else in the world has.
rockets going to Mars and we still don't have a printer that reliably works.
Right. And she's figured it out.
Yeah.
And so that's why she's in the room with Elon Musk,
Yeah.
and
I mean,
he's responsible for the rockets going
yeah,
to Mars. She's responsible for
printers.
making printers work. And
Okay,
one
well,
is a hard job and the other's easy.
apparently anyway, I commend her for these talents. I would like her to share with the public the technology, you know.
Well, so maybe she needs a get ready with me to do get ready with me videos
Her
in which
printer.
she shows how the printers work,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
I operate the printer for Donald Trump. Get ready with me. Here's how you prep the
Yes.
printer. Right, right.
A thing. Yeah.
I think that video would be
That would
worth
be good.
something.
Oh, Ben, I have blonde hair. Maybe I can pretend to be her. And see, this is my plan to get through the next 4 years is, and I feel like this becoming your friend has been, you're the only one in my life who's fully on board with every antic I come up with. And
So
I so appreciate that. So I'm thinking a video, Ben, where I'm her or I pretend to be her. I need some sort of blurring thing so that I look younger. Um, I need anyway, and I need actual makeup as well, not your makeup, but like real makeup. I've never figured out how to use that. Anyway, I need some production help clearly to look approximate to her, but I can do some kind of impression of her showing the printer.
do we know what she like
I'm writing this
what an impression of her would consist of?
No, but I'm I'm thinking we might see more of her, like maybe at state dinners and the Christmas decoration videos. Anyway,
Hmm.
we're gonna have to collect some. We're gonna have to
Yeah,
do.
we're gonna have to do some data
Yeah,
collection.
maybe you know someone. I bet you know everybody. I bet
I
you're gonna
I
maybe
gotta
stand
tell you,
out
Holly, I am pretty badly sourced in Trump
in
world.
Trump world,
It's not like, I've got Boris Epstein in my DMs or anything.
which is really a shame for you because
Yeah,
you would be a
because I
lot.
could buy a job from him.
That's right. That's right.
That
I
story
need a
is.
job, sort of. I mean, do I need a job? I don't know.
I don't
That's
think you
the question.
do,
I don't think I do actually.
because you're all right. Let's beat around the bush here for a minute. Holly, when are you leaving your government job?
I am leaving. My last day is December 13th.
And how long have you been in this government job?
19 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And are you the only person who works for this particular component of the federal government who makes parody videos on YouTube?
Um, Probably, although, it's a large world out there, so I can't say that for certain. I will say that of my particular agency, people tend to be more retiring. Um,
Yeah, you're definitely the outgoing end of the bell curve at that particular agency.
yeah. I mean, they're outgoing in different ways, right? But in terms of like social media and I've just gradually gotten more and more out there because I don't care, you know.
Because the whole out of fucks to give
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. I'm getting
Yeah.
older, and but also I'm living longer in the world of Trump, and so that kind of has that effect. Although not on everybody. There's a lot of people who are still not making parody videos, which I really don't understand. Um, but yes, no, I'm probably more out there. And honestly, some of my online activity, I wouldn't say it would be illegal, per se, but or like against regs, but it probably, like today, I'm skirting the line here today.
Well, what are they going to do? Fire you?
Well, that's right. So I actually,
Um,
my boss actually like sent me an email and he's like, so I need some like data points for your performance review. And I'm like, okay, you're gonna write that for real? He's like, yeah, I mean, you have to write that. I'm like, all right. I mean, can I just send you a video of like Beyonce dropping the mic?
so
I don't
do
know what
do
there is to say.
do people at work know you do this outside stuff, or is that a
I have some friends who I will not, okay, I have one friend who I will not identify either in the videos or by name, obviously, who has appeared in some of the videos.
Okay,
She,
that's
by the
cool.
way, she wants to keep her job, and she but she is just like me, and the two of us together have gotten into a lot of trouble. I will tell you a story later about that. So she's but I won't identify her. So, but she's in some of the videos.
Um,
But other
yeah,
people
so
are
that,
too. So,
so, but have you gotten like, sort of walking the halls? Do people say, "Oh, Holly, I saw your Bulwark parody video. You do a great, JVL."
no, has yet to happen. The Bulwark ones, those are kind of special because they're very niche. I mean, the Bulwark's a little bit niche. Um, so although it's becoming bigger. So I feel like I feel like I could really break out as a star in this universe very, very soon, which, is thrilling, but also, I don't want to be, I know you have like stalkers and things. I don't know how I feel about that.
You.
Yeah. So I don't know how I feel about that. But anyway, not the Bulwark things, but basically how it goes is I text my team when I do a new parody, not a Bulwark because they don't know who that is. They're all very young and the Bulwark audience is mature, shall we say.
Yeah.
Um, and most of my colleagues are like young enough to be my kids at this point. So anyway, but I'll do a parody and I'll put it in the team chat. Um, off, we have a team chat, and then one of them will pretend to have watched it, and the other ones will just. And well, maybe if they're feeling particular, she's moved to another team, but I had a teammate I could reliably count on because she's like an adorable, sweet girl to actually watch and make a nice comment. The rest of them just kind of like look up at the sky and be like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this.
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. Do you feel like there's um a general tendency to treat these videos as a sort of like faintly embarrassing thing that,
Oh,
a beloved aunt does that you sort of roll your eyes at, and
yes.
or are there or are people like, do you feel like the engagement is fake and tolerant of you, or is the engagement real?
I mean,
Or what
one
percent is
can never
which?
know. Can anyone ever really discern how one is being perceived by others? I don't. I think that's something that's a known unknown. Um,
Right. I get that
Unless you
with
are
dog
Donald
shirts a
Rumsfeld,
lot.
in which case everybody hates you. But for me, like, how do people really perceive me? It's a mystery, I don't know. But I will say they are throwing a farewell party for me, and you know, there could be maybe they'll. I don't know what they're going to say, but I feel like I could, for the first time, get a more clear indication of how colleagues regard me. Like what
Although,
comments do they make? Do
right,
they?
do they just avoid the subject
Yeah,
completely? Um do they make oblique references to
yeah,
it, or do they kind of roast you about it, which is actually the warmest?
yeah. The most disturbing thing to me would be if I show up at this party and the tributes to me, of which I'm sure there will be so many tributes, focus on my professional competencies. That will be
Right,
disappointing.
because that would be like they're avoiding the elephant in the
Yes,
room.
that would be very disappointing for me. And frankly, I do not think that that is my main contribution to the organization because there's a lot of, I mean,
I mean,
have
there are
I
a lot
been
of
a good
people who
employee?
can
I'm
do
fine,
analysis
you
of
know?
African
Yeah,
dictators.
yeah, like,
There aren't a lot of people who can
yeah,
do parody videos of analysis of
Not to
African dictators.
mention paintings of the African dictators, inspirational
Right.
paintings of the African dictators, which I have decorated the office with and will leave behind as a legacy. So I just, there's a lot of plug and play there, and that's kind of the
Right.
culture, which I can talk about later, but not today. Anyway, there's a bit of a plug and play element to the culture. Everybody's trained in a certain way to produce a certain product, and to slide into whatever the issue needs to be. And the idea is that you can and nobody's indispensable. Like, if you're out of the office, like, next person up, like, you might be the expert on X, but you're not here today, and so someone else is going to have to do it. So there's that, culture. And it's easy to just sort of blend into the walls, right? So I mean it when I say, like, I don't think that my actual work has been of great contribution, but the antics
The
have.
antics are yeah, that is going to be hard to replace. Um, you guys, I'm not sure, have ever met properly. Ev,
Or even
Holly,
improperly.
Holly, Ev,
Oh, sorry,
Holly,
Ed.
Pleased to meet you.
Ev is one of two in lieu of fun viewers who became a co-host by dint of asking good questions, and she has I don't think ever made a parody video of anything. Although, am I wrong about that, Ev?
Say it's 100% true because no, I think you're right. But it might. Yeah, I think you're right.
Well, I think you need to remedy that immediately, and you can start by giving me ideas for the music video for the one I've just done, and I posted in the chat. So you're welcome. This could be your chance, your
So
entree into the world of parody video production.
Gotcha. So
oh, go ahead, Ev.
no, go ahead.
So first of all, for those who are not subject to the In Lieu of Fun group chat, which is the planning text change that we use for the show, tell us a little bit about this this song that you've recorded and what it is that the public needs to know about it.
Yeah. So first of all, I just want to commend
one thing for everybody: Holly can actually sing, which helps the parody videos quite a bit.
Within certain keys.
Hey,
I'm
that's
an
more
alto.
than most people can
I'm
do.
probably a tenor, actually, but not even a melodic tenor. Anyway, within like 2 octaves, I can sing okay. But anyway, Ev, I just want to commend you. It does appear that you're wearing actual clothing and your hair looks lovely and you look lovely. So I'm in my pajamas, and so that is just impressive to me right there. I don't know what time zone you're in.
I'm Standard Eastern time, but I'm 30 minutes late, so it helps.
Well, but I mean, just being dressed at this hour is impressive to me. I try not to ever be dressed at this hour, but anyway, the parody video. So this is a departure for me in that it is, well, in several respects. First of all, it has a lot of profanity in it, which I feel mixed about because I try to keep my videos clean because the children's enjoy watching them. My children's are now teens, and so I played it for them yesterday. And anyway, we're all out of fucks here in the household, and so I'm not so worried about my children's, but I do know some of my friends' children's enjoy the parodies, and I feel mixed about that. I could clean it up. I welcome your input on the profanity issue. Also, it is rather political, and none of my parodies have been political before. This is not one that I would post in my team chat with the work colleagues, for instance. So this is very political. So basically,
and are you going to wait till December 13th to release it, or are you going to, release it? And face the music at work.
Face the music. I think I might release it because I basically said the same things on social media. So
I see.
I'm really living dangerously at this point, Ben, including this morning on your national television show.
Right. Well, all 10 people who are viewing it right now are very dangerous
Please
people.
don't refer me.
And when we post it to YouTube, you know, Rick Grenell's going to watch it. He's going to break into your house and bite your foot.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be terrible.
Yeah. Anyway, so it is a parody of CeeLo Green's Fuck You. And I've rewritten all the lyrics, and I didn't even cheat and do a repetitive chorus. There's only 2 lines that repeat. All of it is different. And it is, of course, dedicated to our incoming wannabe African dictator. And I was going to wait to release it on Inauguration Day because I feel like we're all going to need some distraction and venting on Inauguration Day. But then I don't know if this happens to you, Ben, but this is what happens to me. I get an idea and I'm like, this idea is so brilliant and will probably change the world. Definitely will change my life if I can do something with it. But oh dear God, there's probably 5 other people working on this exact idea right now. And they're just minutes away from releasing their own.
I mean, that's the way I felt about Middle-Aged Guy Get Ready With Me videos. There was just a pressure to release it quickly because, you know, Matt Iglesias might do it first
Exactly. Although I would say that's a little bit safer because that was a very like personal take. I feel like that had your own.
You mean because of the eyebrow?
Well, or just, you know, I just feel like those videos are very personality driven. And so you can have like 20 different middle-aged guys doing one and it's fine. But this one
is but come on, you want to be the first actor on this.
Yeah, okay.
Right? Like, you don't want to be the 18th middle-aged guy.
Fair. But it's a little
Get Ready With Me video.
This one, once I had this idea, I immediately became panicked because I'm like, first of all, how is nobody I mean, this is just like begging, you know, to be done. You know, a fuck you parody about Donald Trump. So first of all, it may have been done, but now I'm sort of panicked that it's imminently going to be done.
You're right. You better get it out. You better get it out as quickly as possible.
Yeah, but I need help with some of the video. I don't, you know, ideas. So I welcome your thoughts. Obviously, I'm going to do some clips of Trump and various things, but also I'm wondering if I should do a blue screen and like put myself in the video, like in front of. I feel like you, Ben, need to do the Trump dance. You know,
you're
part of it.
All right, I'm going to do that for you.
You can. So what you can do, anybody, you can do clips of yourself if you want to be a backup singer or dancer, preferably in front of a blue screen, because then I can like lift you and put you in different backgrounds. You know, just get you like a blue sheet or something. I don't know how you do this. You know, I've never done blue screen technology. So, and I'm not very good at any of this, by the way. So,
which is part of what makes them beautiful, that they're they're kind of like they're charmingly
underproduced.
I would say they're charmingly just below professional level of production.
Like the Trump administration, it's charmingly underproduced as a presidential administration.
Laura, welcome.
Hey.
The floor is yours.
Just want to say you're asking the right questions, Holly. And I also would like to say no one else is doing this. And you will break out. And when you get out of your job, it might take about 10 years. This is from personal experience, but you will detoxify and your creativity will really emerge in ways even you couldn't have anticipated.
I think that's a frightening prospect.
I have one sort of regret about this format, which is that when you crack jokes and in the Greek chorus, lose it and laugh out loud. I wish I could send my laughter to you,
Oh,
but I can't.
okay, because there's someone laughing in my head at all times. Oh my gosh. What is that? Okay. Did you do that, Ben?
That's all. I just wanted to say.
No, I think, I do have a laugh track.
That's okay. That was terrifying. Never do that again.
Okay, Holly, wait, say something brilliant.
I'm like literally just about had a stroke. So don't.
See, we got that. We also have a drum roll. This is in case we ever have to have somebody face the firing squad on the show.
But Ben,
yes,
underproduced is better than overproduced.
Well, so that was my point, right? Like, I have these sound effects. I don't really use them.
I'm going to leave because I don't want to wear out my welcome, but I am working. I'm working on something.
Oh, before you
You're
go,
a great American. Maybe I should put you in charge of the sound effects. And that way, when you burst out laughing, you can run the laugh track. But like all of these things are, they're all works in progress, and we're gonna fix it eventually. The Greek chorus will be able to sonorously intone laughter,
and our roles will emerge organically.
Yes,
and this community will save us.
One.
This is my entire strategy right here.
Those days when the birds are chirping less.
That's what we're going for.
All right, I gotta leave. Oh, I see the leave button. I'm not going to use it.
Laura or Laura, though, because that's important. Do you know if it's Laura or Laura? She left already, so
I'm pretty sure it's Laura.
Okay, because I have a Laura in my family, and if you call her Laura, like she will end you. So
that seems like an overreaction. As a Ben who sometimes gets called,
Bean,
Dan. No, the biggest mistake is Dan. And
you look like a Dan, actually. Yeah.
Everybody looks like a Dan. But so Ev, what is on your mind this morning?
Oh, I in a pretty common fashion for me, I'll turn back the question to you and actually ask you, how do you feel about being a cult leader that will save us all from going mad?
Well, so I'm definitely down with cult leadership. It seems to me that there's important benefits of cult leadership that I have not really figured out yet, which is the exploitation of the cult members for all of their money. I don't have a compound. It seems to me if you're going to be a cult leader, you should have a compound. And I don't think people treat me worshipfully enough. This brings us back to the conversation that Holly and I were having about the human printer, Natalie Harp, is it?
Yes.
And I feel like, people don't follow me around and worship me in a fashion truly befitting a cult leader. And so those are the three things that I'm working on, really, is, full financial exploitation of the membership, a compound. I think if I don't get a compound out of the deal, really, what's the point? And I'm not picky about it. I don't think I need 100 Rolls Royces like the Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh had, but the compound is a minimum criteria of being a good cult leader. And number 3 is adequately worshipful followers. And I feel like I'm not getting that. So I got work to do in the cult leader department.
That's totally your fault, though. Like, you befriend people who insult you. Like, this is a way to get to you. It's kind of being harsh or arrogant with you. So, like, You just have to change the way you behave and befriend more people who are sycophant, and then it will work.
There was our friend Mona wrote a wonderful op-ed about George Will. I feel like that needs to be your vibe. I find George Will absolutely terrifying. And my husband, who's actually been at a dinner with George Will, concurs. Like, George Will is the vibe you want to go for. You have to use some terror, Ben. There's got to be fear.
I want to tell you that I have I ever told you guys my George Will story?
No, but
I
feel
love
like
George Will.
yeah, I'm sure he's lovely, but come on, he's absolutely terrible. Like if George Will invited me on his podcast, I would throw up for a week before I could ever even say 2 words to George Will.
All right, so here's my George Will story. This is true, and it makes me happy every time I think about it. So I was a very young, so I was 27 when I went to the Washington Post to write editorials, and I was, this was in 1997, 98, and Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, was on trial, and we had a problem as an editorial page, which is that we had, for all I know, still has historic opposition to the death penalty, and so I was, it was my job to write the no death penalty for Ted Kaczynski editorial, and that's actually a hard editorial to write, because if you have a death penalty, which we do, this is a pretty obvious spot to use it. But I gamely, and I actually don't believe in the death penalty, so it was not, it's a hard editorial to write because it doesn't write well, but it wasn't like I didn't believe in it or anything. So I wrote the, don't give Ted Kaczynski the death penalty. And remember, of course, that the Post had played a role in the capture of Ted Kaczynski, which was that we published the manuscript, the Unabomber manifesto, at the request of the FBI, along with the New York Times. And so the day after we run this editorial, or a few days after we run this editorial, George Will writes his column with a lead that I will never forget, which is, "The Post has come out against the death penalty for Ted Kaczynski, the least it could do for one of its authors." And the column was savage, and like really exploited every vulnerability in the argument that I had written, and kind of game appreciates game. He bested me in this, and so I am few days later, maybe a couple weeks later, I am at one of these famed Georgetown cocktail parties of the type that the Trump people think we all spend all of our time at. I had actually never been to one before. It was sort of my first. It was a book party for a colleague, and it was at the house of the publisher of then publisher of the Washington Post. And I'm standing there, and all of a sudden find myself standing next to George Will, whom I had never met before. And so I'm like a cub editorial writer, and he has just written a column savaging my editorial. And, it's a little bit like, I don't know, having Taylor Swift write a song about you, and then finding yourself standing next to her at a cocktail party. I have no idea what to say, how to interact with the guy. But we get introduced, and he asks me what I'm doing, and I say I'm the legal affairs editorialist. And he said, "Oh, did you write the editorial about Ted Kaczynski?" I mean, he bores right into it. And I'm like shrinking into the floor, like, yeah. And he says, "That was a really good editorial." And I'm a little bit taken aback. And I said, "But Mr. Will, you savaged it." And he said, "Oh, a bad editorial doesn't require a sharp column in response. Only a good editorial does." And he was incredibly gracious and very sweet. And I have always thought of, like, I don't know what age he was then. He's probably around the same age that I am now, maybe a little bit older, a little bit younger. But I always thought of that, I think back of that as like a really good example of taking young people seriously. And, he didn't pull any punches in that column, like threw me down on the mat in the first sentence and just kicked for 800 words. But I always remember it as like, an older person just having the seriousness to take me seriously. And also it had this genuine, very untrumpy Washington, hey, we're gonna duke it out in the pages of the Washington Post, and we're not gonna pull any punches. But that doesn't mean we're not friendly. It doesn't mean we're and I do think the atmosphere that we have now, which is argument is war, and when you're at war, you don't give quarter, which is kind of how I feel about the Trump people, and certainly how they feel about us. Like, I really prefer the old Washington cocktail party scene where, you all get together for and the young kid who's just written an editorial that you've savaged is actually somebody you cultivate. So I like George Will. And I've never been able to find him scary since then. I've found him
At least if you get the savaging out of the way, like at 27, and like where else is there to go? Anyway, if he's ever at any cocktail party that you've invited me, please warn me in advance so I can have a.
So you can steel yourself.
Terrified of him. I'll wear like a disguise or something. I don't know. Like I'm terrified of George Will.
He's a very nice man, and he's.
I'm sure he is. His persona. Okay, I'll say this. I don't know George Will, the person, but his persona is absolutely terrifying.
Are you scared of George Will, Ev?
Terrified. Though, well, I would like to have a conversation one time about like this: how to have conversation, how to instill in people the will to have hard conversation in a friendly manner, how to teach or like to foster this kind of conversation where you like hit hard on each other, but in a friendly and in a manner that empowers everyone.
So I have a hypothesis about this, and my suggestion is that we put this on the agenda for tomorrow. But my hypothesis about this is that the internet made this difficult, because when you're standing with George Will at a cocktail party and there's a twinkle in his eye when he says, "Hey, that was a good editorial," that is really hard to convey on Twitter or on, and by the way, not easy to convey in an op-ed too, right? Which is why I thought he hated me. Or thought, not hated, but thought I was a contemptuous liberal twit. And there's something about interpersonal interactions that actually matters a lot for this purpose. And, being there are these people who there are their public personas, but then to know them is to love them. That's a very different thing. And I think we've lost a little bit of that because the democratization and of of information is such that all voices are equal. And by the way, you don't interact with people except in that format. And so we have got to go because we end on time here. But Ev, if you want to have an hour-long discussion of exactly this issue, we will be back tomorrow, 8 o'clock. Remember, keep the faith, make those parody videos, release them, and one day at a time. By the way, while we've been recording today, the sun has come out, the birds are now chirping, and it is, in fact, going to be a great fucking day.